Hello and welcome to the Daily Conspiracy Podcast. We don't take days off because reptilians don't take days off. Lee may have took a day off, or he may be stuck in traffic for quite a few hours, but I've got you all to myself, Anjali.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me today.
It's great to see you. It's been how long's it been? Because
Mm,
when I first had the pleasure of speaking to you, that was on Alien Addict, and you came in randomly. I just sent a link out and said, "Come join the live stream." And I think
Yeah,
that about 3, 4 years ago. I get
yeah,
time's a funny
that
thing.
was 3 years ago, and I think that was the episode that I let. Was that the episode that I let Ryan Gordon really have it? I can't
I think it
remember.
was. Yeah, that is still up on we call him Nazi Nick, but Nick, he's not an actual Nazi. He just talks about
Okay.
he talks about German flying saucers through the
Yeah,
Nazi thing quite often. So we call
yeah.
him Nazi Nick. But yeah, he runs Alien right now. You can still go see that there. I think it is still there. Um, yes, it is definitely there. I never deleted it. But yeah, the how long ago was that now?
That was 3 years.
So 3 years ago,
Yeah.
when you met up with Wayne and Trisha in that cafe. Um,
No, that was longer than
oh,
that. I
okay.
met up with
Sorry,
them in 8 years, or wait, um, yes, 8 years ago now.
eight
Almost
years
nine.
ago. So what happened there was you met up with them in a coffee shop.
That's right.
You were already into the subject of the paranormal. Were your
Well,
experiencer?
it was because I had had some really dramatic experiences recently at the end of 2017 that I was even thinking about what this gentleman had started a conversation with me about. So, but yeah, it was really interesting. They walked into the cafe. I was there with a friend, and it was oh, I can't remember exactly what time it was, but we hadn't been there very long. So it was early morning, probably maybe approaching noon. And let's see, th- we made eye contact, and they just came over and sat down and began talking to us. And yeah, the conversation ended up going to some experiences that the gentleman had had on his property that involved UFOs and alien beings, as he called them, um, aliens. And he asked me if I wanted to come over to him and his wife's property and feel the good energy and go into this tunnel that he had been digging. Um, and that he said one day um, he stopped work on it, and the next day when he came back to work on it, there was an opening. There wasn't a rock wall there anymore. There was an opening, and there was a facility on the other side of the opening, and some what he had described as alien beings that talked to him there, and uh, wanted to know if I wanted to go.
And
So
you'd never met these guys before.
never, no. Very interesting, isn't it?
What? And if I hope you don't take offense, but in the right mind, two people you meet up in a cafe, they tell you this story, and
Yeah.
you think, I'm gonna, because I know where this story's going because we'll speak about that soon.
Yeah,
But you went out there on your own with these people,
I
thinking
did.
I'm gonna be okay. Was it just like one of those gut feelings? I've done shit like this in the past where I've gone,
It
should I
was
have
one of
really
the
done
more
that?
reckless things I've done, for sure, but I wouldn't have done it if, I'm a prior intelligence officer. That's why I was in California in the first place. And I had been working with the Marine Corps. This was a couple of years after that, and um, I had an experience in the house that I had been living in where I had had a lot of other paranormal experiences, okay? Not just me, but other members of my family and visitors to the house and even another contractor that had lived in this house. So there was something about the place already. And but my daughter and I were sitting together in the room, and I'll make this as quick and fluid as
Oh,
I
you're fine.
can. Okay. I a, our cat came and laid in my lap, and my daughter was scrolling through movies looking for something for us to watch on Netflix. And I suddenly got like an overwhelming sense of love and acceptance and compassion and peace and just something more than love that I can't even name. Okay. I don't have a name for what I was experiencing. It
Because it was
may,
deeper.
yes, it was like maybe bliss. It could, honestly, I don't know, but tears just started pouring out of my eyes. I wasn't crying, but it was like, have you ever walked into a room or a building and your eyes started watering because you had this sense that something different was going on in the room? Like, have you ever had a paranormal experience like that?
I've had I've had quite a few experiences with things. Not so much that's made
Where your
my
eyes
eyes
just a
water.
tear? Okay.
That's made my heart pound. I know
Yeah.
what you mean with a good feeling there's been the odd time where I've had that feeling of something overwhelmingly. I can't you know, when you can't explain it, but
Yeah.
I've never had the feeling of more than because I mean I've got two little boys that I love more than anything. So
Sure.
but I've heard this before from experiences. Some people that have had like near death experiences as well that they
I've
get
had those as well.
they get
Hmm.
a feeling of love like they don't even recognize. And these are mothers and fathers that
That's right.
that that have this overwhelm like they can't deal with it. They don't know what it is.
Yes. Yes. That's the feeling that I had. And I am a mother of three. And I've had many pets, I mean, love is something that I'm super familiar with. And I can't quite, love doesn't capture it well enough. It's like being in the presence of something divine, and um, so, my I'm petting my cat, and I was like, am I getting this feeling from petting my cat? Like, what in the heck is going on? And then I looked up and I noticed that in the corner, there was no longer just the corner of my room, but there was like a being that was lavender, purplish, a light purple, that was standing in the corner. It was maybe about 4 foot tall, not very big at all. And geez, it was standing in where my wall should have been behind it in this corner. I was seeing like this hallway that it was standing at the end of, and this hallway was made of it looked like to me metal and glass, and I could see that out the whole area that was made of glass, and including this bubble-ish kind of thing that he was standing in front of, this circle window at the end. um, I could tell that it was the night sky, but that it was like showing me uh, a particular portion of space, and it looked like behind this being was like an an a white and then a kind of like an orange, but lighter, maybe salmon or peach colored. Um, and I immediately felt that it was Saturn. And I'm I said, "Oh my God," you
So
know,
so
and I'm
did you
talking.
say Saturn as in
Yes,
the planet?
yes, that I
Right.
felt that behind them was Saturn, and um, I got my daughter's attention, and I said, "Do you see that?" And she said, "No, what's going on?" And I've still got the tears pouring down my face. I said, "Ambrielle, there's a being in this room who's talking to me." And she's like, what?" But it wasn't like a verbal talk. He was like, his consciousness was talking inside of my head, like, but it wasn't even talking. It was like giving me images and all of the information that I would consider talking was just suddenly in my head. So it was like this
Mm.
all at once experience, you know? Um,
Is that your
and
daughter that was in the Ryan Gordon interview?
yes,
Yeah, because she backs up your experiences, and you can see it in her eyes as well, that she knows you've been what you've been through. Um,
absolutely. Yeah. She's been with me every step.
when you
So
saw that creature, was the love for the creature, or was the love for the situation? Did you when you saw the being, did you feel
mhm.
that the love's for this, or
Yes, like
for
it
the
was coming from that being to me. Like I
right?
was the direct recipient and I was supposed to receive it, you know. Um, and it was humanoid, but not human. Like there's no way that this little guy could have walked down the street and people not have thought that something very odd was happening. So I was alarmed. um, and it essentially was explaining to me that um, that there's a time that's coming up for humanity that is at like a decision point for us, a really uh, like a choice point in how we want to progress as human beings, um, like like a like like a divergent two diverging paths, okay, and we were going to choose which thing that we were going to do, um, and one of them was to remain essentially here on earth, and as it is now, and the other was like a place that I think exists here on Earth, but that isn't the world that we're currently inhabiting, and that there was going to be something that made that split occur. Um, Besides us choosing this, it was like there was a like a cataclysm or something that was coming, and that the the creature, which is how I thought of it at the time, um, was telling me that humanity needed to learn like what they were calling conscious communication, which is mind to mind. It's a faster than light kind of communication. It's nearly instantaneous, um, and that we have it, though it's very primal in us right now. It's something that we've actually lost and that we need to regain because there is going to be a worldwide um, like collapse of civilization that's going to take away our ability to communicate with each other. And so I'm thinking, as I'm listening to all of this, I'm thinking, okay, if my daughter can't see it, is this happening? Is this actually a product of my own imagination? And I thought, there's no way I'm coming up with this. This I've never even thought about things like this. Like, this doesn't make sense to me. So, um, no, this is not coming from myself. So it's coming outside of myself. Is it being induced? Like, could it be, as a former intelligence officer at the Pentagon, I'm very aware of foreign intelligence operatives in the United States, as well as the United States history of testing their own technology, whatever it may be, on their own citizens before they take it into a warfare situation. Okay, so I thought, am I
You mean
being
like a
targeted?
Project Bluebeam test?
Yes, right. So I thought, am I being targeted with some kind of directed energy weapon?
Oh,
Is this,
we lost you for a second there.
oh,
Oh, you're back. You're back. You're back. They're onto us. They are onto us, Anjali.
I know, they're really onto me. I tell you that. um, so
We'll speak about that.
that
Maybe after the show.
might be smart. Um, so I'm trying to explain to my daughter what I'm experiencing while I'm trying to understand what I'm experiencing, and asking myself, is this really some kind of non-human intelligence contact that I'm having here, or is this being induced by some weapon that I'm unfamiliar with? And if it is by a weapon, is it a friendly, meaning, the US, or one of the Five Eyes, or is this adversarial? And, could this be, Russia or China? So I was already going down that road. Okay. So,
Sorry, it was the department. Was it the where did you work? Where did you work again?
well, I had been an intelligence officer out in Washington, D.C., and I worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency. I worked on some DIA director driven projects, worked on several working groups, worked at the Pentagon in the Executive Support Office under the J2, J3 in
Obviously,
under
you don't have to
Rumsfeld.
disclose this. I understand. But was there
So,
anything that when you thought, is this something that's been like, are they doing something here? Was there anything that you'd worked on in the past that you thought maybe I could be a target here?
okay, yes. I believe there would be a lot of reasons that I would have been a target. And it, not anything that I directly worked on, but there were things that I have seen, and it's been 20 years ago now. And that technology still has not been introduced into the civilian or corporate sector, into the consumer sector. So I have absolutely no idea how far some of that technology has advanced since then, but I can only imagine how much farther it has advanced if we still don't even have the basics out in the civilian sector. So it's highly classified. I can't talk about it. I can just say that there's nothing even close to it that I've seen um, as a civilian. And so there were things that I had worked on at the Pentagon, and even the director's project um, that I felt could make me a target. Um, there were a lot of reasons that I had for believing that that could be true. Um, and so I was in a place of, really just trying to understand what I was experiencing, and while being absolutely moved by what it was telling me, um, and trying to work through that not only intellectually but spiritually. So I'm listening to this being tell me that they that we're all connected to one another, that that our world is an illusion, um, and some really highbrow kind of thing that in 2017 I wasn't thinking about. You know, I I had had
Sounds
a
like they're
hospital.
coming for you, Anjali.
I know. Do you hear that? I'm so sorry.
I had it earlier, so don't worry.
I
Yeah.
even have the window shut, but I live right downtown on the river, so yeah. But
So so
go ahead.
fast forwarding from this experience,
That's
you're
why I was open to the
that's what
cafe
I so now
encounter.
I get it, because
Yeah,
I never got that the really any of the information about the experience. So
sure.
this guy is telling you that he's got them, the living
In an underground
in his
facility.
backyard almost.
Yeah, and that he's seen them land their craft up on top of the mountain, and he like hiked up there and talked with one, and they said, you can't come in to where we live, but we just want you to know, we live inside of this mountain, and we mean we mean no harm to you whatsoever. And
But the
so,
way he said that did, because obviously it's hard to, I suppose it's hard to explain a situation when you you're with another human being talking about a subject, and
yeah.
I've been in many paranormal conversations with people, and you get deep into that conversation with them. So at what point in that conversation you think, did you ask or did he ask if you wanted to come see it?
He asked me first before he started talking about it. We spent like the first hour or so talking about our health.
He's with his
And
wife as well.
yes,
So
and his wife
so
was there, but she kind of quieted down and took like a backward seat, and he was the one really engaging in the conversation at that point. She would nod her head and like back him up on what he was saying, but he was definitely the leader of the conversation, and he just came out with it. He just said, what do you what do you think of aliens? Like, just out of the blue, a subject change, and it said, what do I think of him? Effing love him. I love him because I was having that experience,
mm,
at my house, and I'd had a few different ones in that 3 to 6 week period. I can't be exact on it anymore. Um, but so I was really intrigued, and I was eager to have that conversation with someone. And so that's how he began the conversation. He explained to me his sightings, and the what he felt was good energy at his place that he was attributing to these beings that were living in this mountain. Um, and so at some point, he just asked me if I would like to come over, and meet them. And of course, I wanted to do that. Um, so, in the desert, I worked with contractors and active duty Marines, all combat deployed Marines, of course. And we, we
also,
all
just quickly,
had.
I remember you saying that you rang your. Did you ring your daughter as well to say where you were going?
I did. That's what I was just about to say. Like, we had this protocol, that we let friends know when we're going somewhere, that we drop a pin for where we're going, that we give each other names of if we're bringing other people with us, and, if you don't hear from me by this time, call the police, that kind of thing. That was the normal for working in the desert and going out on rucks and all of that. So I handled it like that. um, I, I got their names and addresses. I sent the information to my daughter, and I told her that I was going over there and that she should hear from me in a few hours. And, if she doesn't, then, call a friend of mine. and let him know where I'm at too. But I had already sent him a pen and just a real brief comment of this is where I'm going, you know. So if I go missing, you know, start here basically. So, and they were compliant with that. They had no problem with me doing that. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to go and see what this is about. And I knew it was either going to be the greatest day of my life or a complete letdown, or I was never leaving, you know, the property. Uh, but it was worth the risk because I really was trying to understand what was happening to me. So
So you get to is it Wayne and Trisha? Is that,
yes, yeah.
so you get to there, and is it a ranch or is it just a house with a mountain at the back of it?
Well, it's they had a nice piece of property, and you know the side of a partial side of the mountain, and you know a good piece of land where they had some of their work equipment, and you know they had a couple of little uh, outpostings, I guess. You know, I don't know what you would call them. Um, tin frame setups, and you know they had a really nice home. Um, it's a gated property, so you have to get through the gate to go inside. They're very quiet, humble people who don't like trespassers and the government. You know, they're desert people.
Right.
You get a lot of that out there,
So
and
so you get to their house. So what are the moments leading up to you having your experience there? What happened
well,
when you got there?
well, before we left, because we had been talking about our health, and he had asked me if I was a medical cannabis user. You know, I said yes, I am, and he said that he had made some cannabis oil, and that it really helped him with his physical ailments, and he wanted to know if I wanted to try it, and I said, you know, sure, and I said, how much, you know, should I take? And he said, well, how familiar are you with cannabis? And I said, I am heavily familiar with cannabis. We're very good friends. So he's like, well, you should probably take, and it was something like half of what he was going to take, you know, and and I felt comfortable at this point. I felt comfortable with them. They had, you know, given me their personal information and their address, and they didn't mind me passing it on to other people. So I thought this is what I want to do, you know. And he had said, yeah, if this works for you, then I can make you some. And so I really was kind of experimenting to see if this would be something that would help with my nerve pain because I was still rehabilitating physically from an ICU stay and meningitis and other ailments from earlier in the year. So so I I put a little bit of it back in my teeth, and he said that that's what you do. You just put it back there, and then it just wears away slowly, and you know you don't have to worry about it. So a couple of their friends came in, and he said, "Hey, you know, I'm going to take um, this is you know my new friend Angelia, and I'm going to take her to meet the beings. Do you want to come?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's go. You know, let's do this." And so they left to go home. I don't know if they had a dog with them, but there was something they had to go home and do. Um, and we met them back at Wayne and Trisha's place. And this was one of my first times out by myself alone. So because I was convalescing still, so I was feeling a little tired already, and I was getting a little worried about whether or not I was going to be able to make what I felt like was going to be a hike, you know, to get to this tunnel. Um, but he said, well, I'll just show you, around the property just a little, and then we'll go into the tunnel. So when his friends arrived, we we took a walk around the property, right around the house and some of the outbuildings that they had. And that's the word I was looking for, outbuildings. And then he explained that this wooden structure that was up against the side of the mountain was it was where the tunnel was, and it had like a camouflage net over it. And he said that that was so that the military and the government wouldn't see him carving out this tunnel from his property, um, because he didn't want them to know that he was doing it. And so he said that he would fill this area in this one building with rock, and then he would load that into a truck that he could pull up into the building, and then he would drive it out into the desert and get rid of it. Okay. And he explained that that was kind of the process. He owned and ran a construction company. So none of this sounded unreasonable to me. I thought, okay, I can see how that would work. And
Well,
he
yeah,
said it
if he
had.
owns a construction company, he's going to have some big
Yeah,
tools.
yeah, exactly. And so, so we went under the structure, and he and his male friend went into another part of the building where he loaded the rock and everything, and they went and got hats with the lights on them. So they were wearing like hard hats with a light on them. I was like, wow, this is getting serious, this is
Health
this
and
is actually,
safety, you know.
huh?
Even if there's aliens involved, you need health and safety.
Yeah,
It's
well, and
2020, whatever
yeah,
it was,
right. It was 2021, and or no, 2018, excuse me, and
2018.
2018, and
It was 21 when we met.
that's right. Yeah.
21 when the story came out.
Yes. Yes. Actually, that's correct. So, um, there was like a tarp that was covering the the tunnel. Um, they turned on their lights and they're like, "Are you ready?" And the two women, their wives were with us as well. And I turned on my phone light, and I was like, yeah, let's go. So we walk into this cave. We walk several feet in, and then it starts diverting to the left. Okay. And so we're walking for long enough that the women who are talking behind me, I look back at them and I'm not seeing much light anymore. It's getting pretty dark behind me, other than the light of their headlamps and my little phone light. And I'm starting to question whether or not I'm going to be able to make it, because my legs are getting really tired, and that was part of what I was rehabilitating. And then Wayne said, "You see that light up ahead?" And I could see, like, it was like on like the left corner of the tunnel up ahead. And I said, "Yeah, I do see that light." And I was expecting that was, like, there's a light bulb up there or something. He's got electricity in here. He said, "That's from where we turn the corner, and that's where the entrance is to where the aliens are." And so now I'm getting really
Is
excited.
this quite a long tunnel then? Is this deep in this mountain?
um I actually, I don't know how long it was, but it was long enough that after the walk around the property, I was feeling pretty tired, and I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to make it, or that I was going to need to sit down, and I was feeling embarrassed about that. and it was long enough that, like I said, the dim light from where we had entered was barely visible, and um, I needed my. I was grateful for their lights and for my phone light. I was watching my feet to make sure I didn't, twist an ankle or anything. So
They have everybody's got that. You've all got the helmets on. When
no,
you look, when you
just the two of them, just the
just
men.
right, okay. So you have no helmet,
Right.
right? So when you're looking around, you've got your phone light.
Hmm. Yes,
If you look at the walls if you could remember the walls,
I
did
do.
it look professionally done, professionally dug?
It yes, but it was still rustic. It wasn't like a smooth surface, and even the ground wasn't completely free of debris, meaning that there were still some rocks that were protruding up from the walking space. The
Right.
Mojave is very rocky, and some of it is a lot harder than others, and I could understand why he would leave it, leave those jetting out instead of
But has this like
removing
got
them.
has it got the wooden has it got like wooden props holding the walls? Do you see things like that?
I remember that at the corner of the where I saw light reflecting. When I got up to that, I do remember that. I rem I remember I remember a wooden beam, but I couldn't tell you where, at what point, inside of this that I saw it.
Right.
Okay. Um, so I don't know if they were frequent, and because I spent most of my time looking down, and I'm watching my feet. Um, so watching my balance.
Sure. So we're at the point where Wayne said, "You see that light there? That's the corner that we're
Yeah,
going to turn down where they
right.
are."
Yeah.
So you're walking towards that.
Yes, and I'm walking right beside him. Um, and I've come up, I was kind of right behind him, and or kind of in between. It just depended on how we were maneuvering around the rocks, but there were the two men and me in the front, and the two women behind us that were talking to each other and walking together. um, and once we came up to the turn, I made myself around to the right side, so that Brian and I could make that turn, or Wayne and I could make that turn together. And we turned, and I stopped dead in my tracks because it was exactly what he had said it would be. Um, there was a small gray being, and there were four other beings that um, I would call now the tall whites, but at the time I didn't know about tall whites, and so I would have just thought, okay, they look like they're from a Nordic country. Um, they're tall and slender, above 6 foot. The one female that was there, she was definitely feminine, but they're all more on the androgynous side than on feminine and masculine side.
Right.
Um, and so she had hair that was straight, nearly white, that came down right above the collar, or where her suit was. And by suit, I mean, like, it looked like they were wearing wetsuits. It was very strange. But they were also wearing combat boots, so it didn't really look like a sweatsuit, but I couldn't understand what they were wearing, basically. Okay. um, and because I had never seen military wear something like that.
When you said they were
And
wearing combat boots, they
they were,
literally
they
looked
were.
They were just combat boots. Something that you see anybody wearing. Those are combat boots. Not
Yeah,
not not alien combat boots, but just combat boots.
right. Like they had gotten them from an army surplus, except they were pristine. They were just like absolutely perfect,
Right.
and which is how I would describe those beings as well, is just absolutely perfect. They could pass for human, but if you saw them, you wouldn't be able to stop staring at them because they're just stunning. Um, but so none of them smiled at me. They just stared at me. Um, they didn't speak to me one single time. Now, the little one, the little gray, did speak to me. And he said, you know, hi, Anjali. We've been wanting to talk to you. So glad that you're here, or so happy that you're here. They were basically, he was expressing to me right into my head that
So he wasn't speaking. He was. You could hear it,
I could hear it, like inside of my brain. Okay.
like an inner thought, inside thought.
Yes, but it didn't feel like my thought. I it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Um, I knew that it wasn't my voice, and it wasn't my voice, and like it was like I just got all this information that he was giving me all at once. It was like a package of information that was like, "Hey, we've been wanting to talk to you," and he called me Anjali instead of Angelia. So I was taken a little back. I was trying to figure out what he just called me, trying to understand. And then I I just immediately stepped forward into that space as they were talking to me. I was like, I knew it. I knew it all along. Oh my God, not only am I not crazy, but they're real. They're right here. And I just stepped right out of the tunnel, right into the space that they were in, which was blemishless, just austere and sterile. Um, Reminded me of like a hospital that had no art on the walls. You know how now you get a lot of art, special architecture
Mm-hmm.
and art and things of that nature. There was none of that.
And
I didn't
this
see.
is well lit as well.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Is I didn't see a light source, and yet the whole area there was just light. It was like ambient light everywhere, so I could see very well. When I first stepped in, over to my left, I looked because there was a what looked like it should be like a tunnel, another tunnel that had a higher arch. Um, but all I could see was black. It was like the blackest black I have ever seen. And I saw absolutely nothing. And I was wondering to myself, um, is this some kind of electronic uh, perception, or is that covered by some kind of material that can absorb light? I mean, my intelligence brain was like firing off constantly. I was trying to remember as many things as I could while being in complete awe that it was actually happening.
Did you touch anything while you were there?
I did, but let me just tell this one part. Before they wanted me to follow them, um, Wayne attempted to step in there with me, and the little one said, no. And now I'm observing this conversation. Nobody's mouths are moving, including Wayne's mouth isn't moving, and yet I am aware that they are exchanging information, and I know what it is. Like, they're basically having this conversation where they're telling everyone to go, and him that he can't come in. And when they say to go back to their home, the two women and the other man that was with us, they just turned around and went out the tunnel, I'm assuming, because I saw them disappear around the corner. But Wayne wouldn't. He defied them and he said, I'm not leaving. I am going to stay right here, or I want to come in. And they're like, well, you can't come in, just stay right there. Then he was like, okay, well, I'm not leaving because I'm responsible for her. He was like calling back to the fact that I had given his information out to people, saying, that I was going to his house, and here they were asking to take me off alone. Um, so I was aware of all of that happening, and yet nobody spoke. It was the wildest thing. And so the last thing I remember before going around the corner and down the hall was looking back at Wayne, and he's just standing there with his hands down to his side, looking ahead. Um, he wasn't making eye contact with me. He wasn't moving, nothing. So we head down this hallway that still I'm not seeing any lights. Everything is very austere. Um, and we were walking and I'm not hearing anything. Like I don't remember hearing footsteps. It doesn't mean that I didn't. I'm just not able to recall that. Um, and we came up to a door, like a pocket door that was an arch, and it slid open, and inside I could see a being that was kind of looking down at me, like
Is this the same?
over.
This a different being?
Yes, than the one that was with me. This was a different being, was inside of this, whatever it was. I didn't know what it was yet. I just thought it
Was
was
it
a
one of the
room.
Nordics or was it one of the Greys?
Neither. It was the little purple being that had been visiting us at our home. Um, I had thought that it was 4 foot tall, but what it was showing to me or projecting to me at my home was a much smaller version of what was actually happening. Okay. Um, so then I was wondering, okay, was that holographic technology? If so, why couldn't my daughter see it? Why was I only seeing it? But there were other times that my daughter had seen the being while while we were living there. Um, and so those there was an occasion where we even both saw it together, and other strange things that were happening around that same time. It was very weird, very weird. And that's another thing to get into some other time. So I I'm looking and I realize that this being that's kind of looking down, is taller than the area that I'm walking into, and it's the being that I had been talking to. And I'm
Has this
looking
got
up.
has this
It's
purple
like,
being got any facial features or anything?
yes, I sized it up as being a mantid, a humanoid-esque mantid being, um, from the shape of the face and the way that the jaw protruded, the bulbous head in the back, and eyes that wrap wrapped around. You could see these large black eyes that wrapped around, and these little slits in where, like, we have a nose, there was like a slit, and where their mouth was, it was just a mouth, but they never opened it. um
So there wasn't the big scary pincers.
uh I don't remember
Because
the
mantids,
ends of
I'll
the
be honest with you, they
hands.
scare the shit out of me. I've said this before on the show. That's one of the aliens that scares me because, and if you're saying they're all love and light, then I'm happy because have you ever seen a mantis eat something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
you give that
they're
a
wild,
lizard.
aren't they?
Yeah, I've seen it crushing a lizard's head.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wasn't afraid. I'm sorry, for some reason my necklace is falling off. So um, I'm just trying to get it back on, but I'm fumbling it. Um, oh darn. So I'm gonna have to take it off. Sorry about that. So um, they just, they introduce themselves to me, and I'm floored. I walk in and there are these metal tables. It's this whole big room with a big domed circle room. Okay. And there are different kinds of beings by the color of their skin and the shapes of their heads and their bodies that were in the room, plus other of what I understand now are tall whites. And there were human beings that were laying down on other tables. Um, and so they told me to lay down on this table. And as I laid down on it, um, this this thing came down. It was like a rectangle that was directly over me, and it had like it was like mist, but if mist could be light. So if you think of like every little droplet of mistiness, every little drop is a tiny speck of light. That's what I saw. And I was just entranced by it. And then all of the sudden, I'm out of my body and I'm up into like this. I'm behind, I'm looking down at my body now. So I'm up
So you can see
and
yourself. You're having
I
like an
can
out of
see
body.
myself. Yes. And I'm up high enough that even the manta being who is communicating with me is looking up at me. So I had to have been like, my consciousness was like, probably 10 foot up in the air, you know, um, judging by the height of the mantid. And they were telling me that they were doing an examination on me. And there were beings that were standing around the table, and one of them is conferring as they're going along, and I can hear it because it's about me. Um, while the mantid is also communicating. So it's like all this seamless communication where it doesn't feel like people are being talked over. It's just seamless transmitting and receiving of information. And so the mantid starts telling me that I need to wake up, that it's time for me to wake up, that I need to remember who I am, and that all of humanity needs to remember who it is and what it is. Um, and just began explaining an entirely new concept of things to me. Um, and while I was also watching myself be examined. Um, and one of the things that I noticed while I was in that state was that around the top of the dome, there were a series of windows that were all interconnected, and they just had like some slats between them. Um, that reminded me of like an old surgical theater. Okay. And it was one way windows. So from the side that I was on, I couldn't see anything. It just looked like dark tint. which is why I knew instinctively, immediately, that that was a two-way viewing. And I knew instinctively that there were other beings that were up in that room that were watching, and didn't want to be seen. So I'm like, while this being is communicating to me, my consciousness is looking around the room and I'm visually seeing everybody. And I'm thinking, this is the wildest shit I have ever seen in my life. Who could possibly be hiding? Like, when I'm seeing all of this, why? What could be behind the window that doesn't want to be seen? And I logically came to the conclusion that it had to be human beings that were involved in all of this, that were watching it. They were observing. Um, and
While this experience is going on, do
yeah,
you feel like you, or do you feel like when you're walking down the tunnel, do you always feel like it's you, or
yes.
like you outside of you, if that makes sense?
I
Do
was, when I was outside of myself, did I feel like me? Or like when I was
the
walking through the
whole
tunnel, the whole
experience?
thing, the whole thing, I felt like myself. I
So,
didn't feel any different.
but did you feel any of the effects of what Wayne had given you in the cafe, the 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 the
Not
cannabis
that
oil?
I was aware of. Um, I don't remember feeling stoned, you
Right,
know. Um, I know that he and his friend um, took more before we went on our hike, and I did not.
right, okay.
Um, and so I, if I was having effects, I wasn't noticing them. Okay.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because everybody knows when they feel stoned, you know.
yeah, I did not have that feeling of being stoned. I'm very familiar with that feeling. So definitely what did not have that feeling. I
Right.
was incredibly alert, um, and trying to take in as much information as I could, and try to understand, what I was seeing and experiencing.
Did you feel the same feeling that you had with your experience at home, like the emotions?
This No, this time I did not, but I did feel very calm. I From the moment that I saw them, I was excited, and I was calm. I I don't remember feeling that same overwhelming love sensation that I felt the very first time. In fact, in none of the following the follow-ups that I in contact that I had with them did I ever have that as part of the introduction. It was like I just knew it was them. We were familiar with each other now, you know?
Right. So you're seeing these windows, and
Yeah.
or you get the feeling, pretty much you know that there's humans behind there watching you.
Yeah, like who would hide when all of this bombastic stuff is happening? Like who would have a need to hide? I feel like at that point, cat's out of the bag for me, unless it's humans who don't want to be associated with what's happening. So that was the conclusion that I was coming to. I was I was still in analyst mode,
So
So
what happened next?
so uh they finished the examination. We had a very long conversation, um, consciousness to consciousness, and it was more of me listening to them. I was still able to think and feel like I had all of my faculties about me. Even though I was aware that my body was down there and my vision is up here and I'm perceiving the room from a different vantage point, I wasn't afraid. I understood what was happening. They removed my consciousness from my body, and I wasn't opposed to it. I understood that they were performing a medical procedure. And so they said one of the things that they told me was that I wasn't meant to be as sick as I had become, that there had been essentially an interference with my body that had caused me to get sick, and that was never part of like their plan, you know. Um, so
So that they're admitting to have done something to you in the past.
they they were hearkening back to my childhood when I had had a craft come over our home, and my family and the other people that were living in the house and my neighbors had come outside into their yards, into the street, and into my driveway, and everybody's just in awe of this craft that's above our house. And I am experiencing it from the inside of the house, looking over the couch and over some bushes that were growing right outside of the window. And I'm watching these lights that are making colors um, on our yard and on my mom and everybody. And then suddenly I'm, inside of a craft talking to some beings, and they're telling me, hey, this is your family. And what they meant by that was that these were um, these were other children that they had made from essentially from my mother's eggs. Okay, like they had been harvesting my mother's eggs and trying to make a baby that would look human enough and still be like energetically compatible with the the a body that looked human, that was
Mm-hmm.
human, that had human DNA, and that they tinkered with it some to be able to tolerate the consciousness and the conscious experiences that I would have later. So these were other like brothers and sisters of mine at varying ages, none of which had any hair. Some of them had very human faces, but their bodies were much too thin and their heads too large and hairless to have ever passed, for human. So it was like there was some kind of genetic experiment that was going on. And they would
So
just,
you were seeing these
yeah.
Jeanette, you were seeing these in the cave.
So,
This is
well,
2018. You're seeing this,
no, I didn't see that in 2018. That happened to me when I was a child and I
right?
was
Got you.
inside it. Okay. So now I'm just seeing other beings. And, but I'm already kind of putting it all together. I'm
You're putting the
figuring
pieces
it
together.
out. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so um, this is a checkup for those of us that have been tinkered with, or have we all been tinkered with? That was really my question. Um, and I didn't really get a good response, but you know, since then I kind of think that maybe we've all been tinkered with, little beings tinkering with our
I've
DNA.
definitely been tinkered with quite a few times. Um,
Okay.
so, so,
Interesting.
so do you get up from being laying down?
Yeah. So then the exam's over, um, and I'm literally like just suddenly I'm back inside my body. And they're telling me that I can get up off the table. By the way, I was fully clothed. They didn't need to take off my clothes for anything. Um, they apparently, that just wasn't part of the process, you know. So um, they had, I guessed, advanced technology enough that clothes weren't a barrier. Um, so I was always fully dressed. Um, and then I got up off the table
I always find it
and
a bit weird when people interviewing experiences and they go, "Were you naked? Were you naked? Did you go undressed? What is wrong with you? Not every alien is perverted,
right? Yeah, no, it was
apart from the ones
um
that do the probing. I mean, they're a bit weird.
right. Yeah. And I want to go back to something you said earlier when you said that if you say that they're all nice, then, that makes me feel better. I don't think so. Okay? I mean, I think that we could have some benevolent and ambivalent and malevolent beings of all sorts, just like us, you know. Um, we have people who are, really sweet and genuine, and then we have some pretty crappy people, and then we just have, you know, stoics. And um,
Yeah.
s- so, I have a feeling that there's a whole ecosystem
So,
of
so did you?
types.
So you just got up, and you left the. Did you walk through the same black entrance, the black
Yep.
corridor, into the white room again? Then is that you
Well, the
literally
corridor wasn't black. There was just that one. It was that one spot that I couldn't see into.
right?
That was black. The corridor itself was like eggshell or white, it was just a nice light color, very austere, no nothing special, no special architecture,
Is
no.
that what you touched? Did you touch any of the walls? I'm always
No, I
fascinated with
didn't.
stuff like that because I want to know the textures and
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't, but they were smooth. There wasn't anything about it that that would really distinguish it from anything else, except for the fact that I got to it through a mountain tunnel. Um, and I have to admit that I always thought that, well, I must be in an underground facility, but it is a possibility that it was somewhere else completely, and I wouldn't even know. I mean, the whole thing that was happening was so otherworldly, and but yet it was still all tactile. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
Like, this was a physical place that I was at, and they were doing physical exams on other human beings and on myself. And um and I couldn't hear all of the other conversations that were going on in the room. The only thing I was catching was anything that was related to me. Otherwise, I wasn't privy to the kinds of dialogue that was happening or information that was being received or transmitted from any of
So
the others.
you get out of the cave. Is
Yeah.
Wayne with you when you get out?
So when they walked me all the way back to the entrance, and he's still just standing there in the exact same position that he was in when I left. And he kind of perks up, and they indicate that we're about to go back. He takes a step in, and boom, the next moment we are inside of his house.
What in the blink of an eye, as people say.
Even, yeah, yeah, the blink of an eye. Like, it was very disorienting, um, because I wasn't expecting it. Everything else had been so fluid, um, and I felt like I could account for the time, and then suddenly I was somewhere else, and that alarmed me. Um, and I thought, well, they teleported us. I mean, something very crazy is going on around here. And I I was very alarmed. And Wayne was asking me, what did they say to you? What did what did they tell you? Where did you go? I mean, he was just really eager for details. And all I could do was, put my hands on the side of my head and say things like, what, and just really trying to understand what I had just experienced and what was happening to me.
I mean, this could. I want to know the answer to this, but I heard that somebody mentioned. I think it was another ho- show host that an ambulance was rang. Is that true?
That what?
That somebody rang an ambulance?
Yes, my daughter ended up ringing an ambulance because I told her that I told her all about what had just happened, but the part that concerned her was that I was later than I had said I would be, that I the things that I was talking about to her weren't making sense. Okay. Because I was kind of rambling about going into a tunnel inside of a mountain, and there
There
were
is records of this ambulance being run because you
yes.
never disclosed that either. Somebody found that out, and I think it was somebody you weren't too
Um,
fond of at the time as well.
no, it wasn't that I didn't disclose it. It was that I had the time wrong, from when I thought that the ambulance had been called and when they say that they were called. And the times don't match up. And I still haven't been able to reconcile that. Um,
No, this is
so
not me being funny. It's
yeah.
me kind of saying that because I remember the whole thing when this came out. You wanted to protect where it was because you didn't want them being
That's
bothered,
right.
and somebody found out the location because they found out about the ambulance.
No, I told someone,
Ah,
one
okay.
researcher. I told that one researcher the address so that they could get the report.
Yes, and yeah,
That's
I
what
I
happened.
remember this. Yes.
Yeah. So I I had to pick someone to trust, and so I picked this one gentleman that I tell more things to than I tell most people. So
Right.
still,
So you've so
so I was
let's
checked out, and my daughter was concerned because I told her that I had taken cannabis oil. And so immediately she was very concerned that maybe they had given me something else. She wasn't there. She didn't understand why
I
I
mean,
was in the
rightly
state.
so. Rightly
Right,
so.
right. I know. But it was, it's SoCal, and I had a medical marijuana card, and it's not unusual to meet people who will give you cannabis. They'll share with you. You'll smoke on the street with someone. It happens. So that it really, I know it may seem way far out there in other places, even in my own country, but in Southern California, it wasn't so strange. You
Mhm.
know. Um, so yeah, they came and they checked me out, and they said I seemed fine. That's what they said. They said, you seem fine and all your vitals look good. I said, I am fine. I said, I've just had, a, a crazy night, but yeah, I feel fine. They said, well, you seem okay. They didn't find
Did
anything
Wayne
wrong with
say
me.
don't tell him about the cave?
Huh?
Did Wayne say don't tell him about the cave? The
Oh,
the
I
ambulance.
didn't. Yeah, I didn't tell them about the cave. I already knew not to tell him because he had gone to such great lengths not to have it seen, you
Hmm.
know. And it was still covered by by the camouflage. So
So,
yeah,
what year was it that you, was it 2021 that you whistleblowed on this,
I
so to
yes, it
speak?
was. Yes. Now I did uh, in 2018 at some point. I contacted the executive director of MUFON, um, because I was still trying to figure out what was going on with me. I didn't really know where to start and who to start with, you know. So um, I thought I'm going to tell, the tip top of this MUFON organization, and I'm going to write my story out in an email and tell him. So I did that year, and then I began studying to be a field investigator, which is something I never ended up doing, um, because that really wasn't going to be the way that that my journey would go. It took some turns that were pretty surprising even to me. So
So I want to get into now. So Ryan Gordon, he put out a documentary. He had you and your daughter on an
yes,
interview documentary.
yes,
Where, am I right by saying you've been back?
that's correct.
So can you explain that then? Because it, from 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 watching that, it seems like you're not so sure anymore about what happened.
I am confused more than I was before, but I am still
So did
going
you
on a
manage to
search, and
get
it's
back in touch with
I did.
Wayne?
I went. Yes, I did manage to get
Because
in
he was
touch
on
with
a
Wayne.
just quickly,
Yep.
he was on, I think it was Stephen Cambian's show,
Oh,
and he was
yeah,
kind of like, it was almost like he was making out you were crazy. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so you kind of, you
He
kissed him,
doesn't have the
mate.
mineral rights to dig on his land, so it was
Right,
illegal.
right, okay, I understand that. So you did you make friends with him, or did you not even fall out with Wayne? That is
Um, right now, I would say that we're in a cool period.
right. Okay,
Um, uh, I don't think that either one of us, because of, I think in some way we're kind of trauma bonded over all of this. We have both kind of been victim of a lot of harassment, from the public. Um, at first, they were saying, that he didn't exist, and that I had just made up this whole story, and then it turned out that, oh wow, so she didn't make up this whole story. There are actually a Wayne and Trisha, and she has been telling us the truth about going over to their place, and that those names, Wayne and Trisha, are not their real names. I mean, there was just a lot of things that were adding up. First, nobody thought that I was really, prior intel. They, oh, that's BS. She didn't do any of that. You know, and then they found, oh, okay, so, oh, wow, so okay, she really did do that. Oh, and she really did work at the Pentagon, um, and in the executive support office, nonetheless. I mean, uh, I, I I had a very good career, and was well respected and trusted in the work that I did. So it just, little by little, little pieces of the truth that I was telling were verified,
mm.
and then he came forward and said that there is no tunnel on his property. So I tried to get back to his property before he did that, and I went all the way to California with my partner at the time, and Whitley Strieber and I were going to make a visit to the property, um, because he was quite certain
Love
that,
Whitley.
Yeah,
Great.
that somebody was going, that he knew of someone who would be very interested in buying the property if he could just verify that there was even a tunnel on it, you know? And so went all the way out to California on a car trip, and then they decided that they didn't want to have either of us out there. So it was a really big disappointment. And I kept at it, just every once in a while, check in and try
So
to
they
reassure
didn't want
them.
to have you or Whitley Strieber there at all.
Right, right.
Interesting.
Yep. Um, but I kept in touch, and like, and just tried to work through, what he felt like the issues were, and what his wife felt like some of the issues were around a visit. And a lot of it, they they were not only discouraged by the harassment and what they were afraid would happen if they let a a team come to their property, but they were also concerned about liability and like someone getting hurt, um, or disappearing, just anything. And so I had offered to have a legal NDA drawn up that would release them from all in any liability of
Mm.
anyone who would come on the property, that everyone would sign one, basically a consent form waiving their rights to sue the owners of the property for anything that happened. Um, and that that wasn't enough either. So fast forward to 2014, uh, the owner Wayne contacted me pretty
2014
much.
or 2024?
Oh, 2024, excuse me. And yeah, 2024, he contacted me and said, "Hey, I we're selling the property. Are you interested?" And of course I was interested, and I immediately started looking for a buyer. And I had turned to someone who was working with me on getting a podcast going. And because I knew that he would have access to funds, and he said, "I actually do have access to funds, but we need to get on the property and verify that there's a tunnel." So here we are, same situation as in 2021, um, when Whitley was saying the same thing. We have to verify that there's a tunnel before we can, um, make any kind of commitment or start any kind of talks. And so this time they say yes, so I bring them out there, um, the potential buyers, and their plan at that point was to have me live on the property, and that I could run my podcast from what would have been, their prior home. And so that was kind of what we were looking at the time. And I noticed a few things that were different when I went back. One was the setup of the house itself. There were some parts of it that were like mirror images of it. So like it was flipped the other way. And like the fireplace in the chimney was in a different area than the sitting area of this one particular part of the house.
Do you still look the same? Still same decor though?
Still same decor.
Still the
Um,
same decorations and what have you, or is this like they've
no,
totally revamped the place?
I don't know. They said that they didn't, but I was very confused about that, and that there had been a larger like not a total arch, but a rounded area, that they had a big door that led into another part of the house. And that was not the same either. It was a small, narrow, square door. And I even asked them if they had done any renovations. Um, and they said no, but I didn't quite believe them,
Right.
you know. It was very odd. So I don't know what to think of that. I'm trying to figure that out. We go out to um, the the wooden structure that was up against the side of the mountain, and we walk down to where I think the tunnel should be. It seemed a little shorter than what I remembered, but I'm I'm touching the end of where the structure ended, and there should have been a tunnel because it was the end of the structure. Um, it was just flat rock. There was there was no tunnel. There was nothing carved out there at all.
What you've
Um,
walked up here with your the potential buyers
yeah,
with Wayne
yes. After taking cannabis oil again, just want to
oh
throw that out there.
when in
um,
Rome
yeah, yeah. I just thought let's see, and I felt no effects from it, so uh, that was interesting. Um, but so, like I said, I remember it being a longer tunnel, or excuse me, a longer structure, and it did go into another building, but I didn't see like on the other side of it, if there was anything on the other side of where the structure ended, that could have been the tunnel. Um, I I explained to the producer that was there, um, that I believe that this is where it should be. I remember this being longer, but there's this is where it should be, and this is the place where the two men would have gone in to get the hats with the lights on them. And Wayne said, "Yeah, that is where I used to keep them." He's like, "They're not in there right now, but I did used to keep them in there."
didn't you
Um,
pardon me, didn't you say Wayne, where the fuck's the fucking tunnel, it's not like where is it, where's
that's
the
what he
tunnel?
wanted to know too. He was like, "Where's the I
Oh,
don't know where the
so he
tunnel
was
is."
as puzzled as you.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So where does that leave us? One of the things that they had told me, the beings had told me when I was being examined by them in that medical room, was that we would always be connected now. That I was connected to um, the council. They said it was the council, and that we were literally like consciously connected. That it didn't matter, the time, space, all of that was irrelevant. Um, and it from the years that I have been trying to figure out and understand how any of that is possible, I've kind of have landed in the quantum realm of quantum entanglement, and the the idea recently that they found in the brain that there are that the cells of the brain have microtubules that are like transmitters and receivers. They're like
Oh,
antennae. Um, and they are part of our brain cell structure. And so, from a scientific standpoint, I'm leaning towards, okay, so that's the brain mechanism. What happened? Like, where is the tunnel? Why can I still have communication with these beings, but I can't go inside of a tunnel and go to their location? Though, let me back up and say that so this was all in 2018 that the initial experience happened of being in the tunnel and going into the other.
2024, you went back out. The tunnel wasn't there.
Yes, but in 2019, a year later, I was in an RV with my daughter, and they came and visited me. They came and got me in the middle of the night, and I woke up and I sat up and I was like, "Oh, it's you guys!" It was the little guy and the four tall whites, and they turned around and walked me out, and I knew that we were going back. The last thing I remember is stepping out into the sand and looking down at it to make sure that I wasn't going to step on anything, because I didn't really go outside at night a lot in the open desert, which is where we were near Giant Rock at that time.
Do you
So
just quickly going back to 2024 when
yeah,
you went to potentially buy the property?
yes.
There's no tunnel. Did you ask Wayne when the last time he saw them and went in the tunnel was?
No, he claimed to not remember.
He doesn't remember any of it.
That's what he says.
But he doesn't remember any aliens. He doesn't remember anything. But
He
he
says he doesn't
remembers.
remember any
But
of
does
it.
he remember having a tunnel?
He does not remember that. He also said that he doesn't remember going up on top of a mountain, on top of that mountain, and seeing the UFO and talking to beings up there. But he remembered a lot of other things that he told me that day. But
Does he remember why he asked you back to come back?
no, no. He thinks that it would have been
What about his
to,
friends? Did you ask him about his friends? Do they know?
they say that there was not a tunnel there, that that experience didn't happen at all, that I must have been high.
That must
Yeah.
be
Frustrating.
well. If you know, I mean, when we first met in 2021, is it
Yeah.
2021? Yeah, I was on Alien Edit. You came on, and I said, I said, Anjali, I think I don't believe you, but I like
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
remember saying that,
Yeah.
and
Do you
then
believe me now?
I, I think it's a wild fucking story, and I've had some wild experience myself. But I want to,
It's okay. I'm
I
not
want
putting you
to.
on the spot.
No, what I do want to say is one thing that really threw me on that show. I turned because you said that they give you it like images or, and I said, well, what's my number?
Yeah.
And you said 33,
Yeah.
and I did not know, and still to this day don't. I mean, there's a tiny YouTube video with hardly any views that was probably done about 2 years before we even had that conversation,
Yeah.
where I
I've
speak
never
about
seen that.
seeing the number. No, you answered it
Yeah.
so quickly. You would have had to. You'd have had
Yeah.
to, because at first you went, I don't know, and then you went, oh, 33. Is it,
Yeah. The
you said
beings told me. And
you
I
said
was
is it
looking
33?
yeah. Yeah. And let me tell you why I was so hesitant to say it, because as soon as you asked me, they gave me that number 33. And I was that can't be true because that's my number. So I thought, no, that can't
No,
be it.
well, the
And
weird
so,
thing is, I see that number all the time, and
yeah, me too.
my co-host Lee, he also sees it all the time now.
That's amazing. I love it.
Like
Yeah.
the weirdest places, it just pops up. I'll wake up and it's like 3:33. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I
No,
really
that's
do.
a lie. I haven't done. I haven't woke up. If I wake up at 3:33, I'm probably moving.
Oh.
You know.
Well, that's my daughter's and I's one of our favorite combinations of 33 is 333. So we
Yeah, I
have a
see
habit of
333
telling
a
each
lot, and
other,
I see 33. I
yeah,
have no idea what it means. But I mean, to give you an example,
yeah,
I'm driving on the motorway. A van pulls in front of me, like to the point where I have to slam the brakes on. Dead in the center of the number plate is the number 33. It's little
yeah,
things like that that happen that are crazy, and I'm like, this is not a coincidence. This is trying to tell me. And when you
yeah.
told me that was my number, I
I
was
remember you were
like,
pretty stirred. Yeah,
no, I was genuinely blown away. And back then, I used to kind of debunk a lot of things. But I mean, who am I to shit over somebody else's experience? I've had experiences myself.
yeah,
I haven't had what you've had,
yeah,
um, but I've had them, and I think if you're going to speak about this subject, if you talk about this subject, if you're into this subject, if you don't believe everybody's story, then what are you do? What are you in it for? You
yeah.
know what's the point?
Yeah, and I don't think that we necessarily have to just blanket believe everyone for all of everything, because there are some people who have come forward and admitted, yeah, I LARPed that. And that's just, really devastating. There was a guy, his name was Thomas, um, but he was the alien guy on Reddit who was talking for like years and years about um, being abducted by aliens, and then he came forward this right it was like shortly after I came forward with my experience. He came forward and said, yeah, I made it all up, and so it was very there were a lot of people who were pissed off, and I think that I kind of got tied up in that. you know he had a large following, and to just come out and like he came out with his face and everything and said, "Yeah, I'm this guy, and I've been I've been lying to you guys all these years." You know,
So
ha ha ha! Isn't that funny? So
what do you think is going on with that place? And Wayne now telling you that it never existed. It wasn't there. It was all in your head.
right. Well, I
What?
know that it wasn't all in my head, um, and but I don't know what's going on. Um, I have some theories, and that's one of the reasons that I'm still trying to get this podcast up off the ground. Oh, you'll find this interesting. I actually found a couple who live in Austria, and they are a couple of old geologists. Okay, PhD, everything, and they go up into the Austrian Alps and uh, do geological research. Okay, and so they have this one path that they go down, and they one day they were walking by this area. It has this like a stone face wall, and there was a tunnel there. Okay, like a cave or a tunnel, and there was like something that was like marking it over it so that people wouldn't go into it. And they stopped, and they're like, why have we never seen this before? We've been doing this for years and years. Are we on the same path? And they look around, and it's like, yeah, this is the same path we're always on. Um, and so they were very intrigued. They didn't have the equipment that they needed to, really go exploring inside of the place, but they did go inside. And they, if I understood the information correctly, they like pulled a board off or something that had been placed over it. And they went inside, and they were getting to the point where they could see up ahead that there was a light, but it was getting, they didn't have far to go before they would lose the light from the opening of
Mm-hmm.
where they had gone in. They didn't have flashlights or anything like that. So they were hesitant to go any further. So they said, let's just go back out. We'll come back tomorrow, and, we'll bring lights with us, and I'm assuming other equipment. I don't know what they were going to do there. But my understanding was that this was such a big moment for them that they didn't even do anything else that day. They went back down the mountain and went home. So the next day they go back. They're in the same place. They know they're in the same place, and again, it's a wall of rock.
Nothing, just rock.
Nothing. But guess what they start having? Contact with non-human beings who are communicating with them through what they call telepathy. But the council calls it conscious communication, because it's consciousness to consciousness. So I'm going to be interviewing this couple. I have a translator coming so that we can do this, because they know of my story, and they were upset, actually. They said, "How did you get invited to that?" They called it something in German. I can't remember right now what it was, but they basically were saying, we're now aware of that there's this underground area where these non-human intelligent beings live, that's where their society is. But they're very, very particular about who gets to come in, and they wanted to know how I got invited. And I said, well, they just came to my house one day and started talking to me. And that's kind of
Like
where
they
we've
do.
left it for now. Like, yeah, like I don't have any idea. But so I'm really excited to get their take on what they've learned. They're rather old now, but they are eager to discuss my experience with their experience and the communications that they've had since, and kind of help me try to
Where are they
understand.
from? Switzerland?
Austria.
Austria? I always get those two mixed up. That's kind of similar. Um,
Yeah.
I mean that'll be great. Getting you,
Right.
I find it interesting though when the way they almost made out that you got an invite.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Like they knew about that.
Yeah.
Do you
I'm really.
what do you think? Because there has been, you will have seen since you coming out about the cave, there has been a lot happening in the
Yeah.
UFO community, if you can
Hmm.
call it community. But
It is. It's a dysfunctional community, but it's
yeah,
a community.
it's a madhouse.
It is.
Um, what do you think of these mummies that have been found in caves? Because I was
Yeah.
really on the fence with these when they first came out, to almost like, oh, come on. But then when I've seen some of the scans, I'm like, this is pretty, this looks pretty crazy. And these have
Right.
been found in caves.
Right. I don't know what to think. Um, I understand that some of them have been deemed as fakes.
Yeah,
Um,
they've mixed some fakes in with the real ones. Yeah.
yeah, but then it's the big ones that are that are being looked at as being genuine, not the tiny ones.
Hmm.
So I don't know what to think, but it's kind of okay. I think it's okay to just sit back and not form an opinion on what the big ones are. I suppose that if it's true that they are living underground, that there might be bodies that would be found somewhere, and why not in a tunnel system or a cave system? Kind of makes sense to me. Um, I just I can't speak to the veracity of what they have right now.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to wait for the results.
And do you just before I let you go on your way?
Yeah.
Because this one thing you hear about is like Men in Black, which I don't know how I feel about Men in Black. As in, they're they're these strange Men in Black. They're possibly extraterrestrials, maybe,
Mm,
but I think some of the Men in Black could be the people that are the disinformation agents that work hard to discredit, but also sometimes slip stories in there.
hmm
And have you seen this since you've been doing this?
I have never seen a man in black. I have not experienced that. Um, but I'm a different breed. I don't know if any of the intelligence officers that have come forward, such as David Grush and Lou Elizondo, um, and if they've ever experienced Men in Black either, which I find interesting, you know, um, from
See,
a
David
stand.
Grush seems like a lovely bloke. I don't know about Lou Elizondo.
I'm not a fan, but I have agreed, or I offered to his attorney Ivan Hanel to lay off Lou for a while. So I was going pretty hard, gunning for him for a bit
Oh,
there.
did you get the letter?
No, no, I didn't get the letter. I noticed that his attorney was following me, and so I I hit him up in the DMs and was just kind of poking at him, telling him he should drop Lou as a client if he knew what was good for him before he ruins his reputation as an attorney. And now here we are, friends. What do you do?
Is it? Wait, is isn't his is that Danny Chien?
No, not anymore.
It
No,
was though, wasn't it? I always
it
found that
was.
strange that Danny Chien was Lou's working with Lou, but he was also Stephen Greer's attorney, I think, as well. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and I think that when Lou was part of the UAP Defense Fund, um, that that was when he was being represented by Sheehan, but Lou is no longer affiliated with them.
Hmm.
So,
What about Stephen Greer?
um, I recognize that he has done a lot for ufology over the years. He's been in ufology, what, 40 years
Well,
now,
since
right?
the 90s.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, it
So
could even
30.
it might be even a little bit long. Might even be
Yeah.
late 80s,
Late
maybe when
80s.
he dipped his toe in. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a picture of him with like the Rockefellers, and he's got Linda Moulton Howe with him, and he's got I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever seen that picture. They're all there. It's like they've all
Yep.
been employed. Like
Yep. Yeah. I have.
Bigelow was there.
Yes. Yeah. One big happy family. Um, my so I recognize that he's done a lot for bringing the issue out into the public eye, and I appreciate that. I am There are things that I feel very critical about. One is the cost of his events. Um, I feel that it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people who are just as important as someone who can afford, thousands and thousands of dollars. Um, I think that the kinds of things that he's holding his conferences for should be open to everyone and should probably be charged on a like an income floating income base, um, but that's how I see the world. I think money is ridiculous, and that the fortunate ones who have a lot of it get to experience things that should be human rights. And I feel like what he's delving into with consciousness and communicating with craft that are, you know, presumably or supposedly alive, um, and particularly reaching out to the beings that are inhabiting them or running them, that's encroaching on human rights. That's not something that's just for the people who can afford to spend, 4 or 5 grand to go to an event. I also I'm fairly certain that one of the videos that I watched of an event that he held in Florida, where there was supposedly a craft that was seen offshore at a beach. I'm fairly certain that those were flares.
I've seen that.
Um, yeah, I know a military flare. Uh, I, I I I don't know what else to say about it. I'm very familiar with the way that they hang in the sky, the way that wind affects them. Um, so
I see that. I find so interesting if it is a military, if it is flares, because he's gone to the he's got a team then working for him, because that's not
right,
just him. He's not just him. It's not just Greer's grift. It's Greer and a team
yeah,
that do it. So that, I think, that goes a little bit deeper and goes possibly into the whole Rockefeller thing. I don't know. I mean, that is pretty wild.
yeah. That's definitely something you should look into
It,
conspiratorially.
this is the thing that really interests me when you hear like a show host just calling people grifters. He's just making a bit of money. He faked all
Yeah,
that. Yeah, but
yeah,
those flares were way out at sea. If those were flares, who's letting those flares off?
yeah. It wasn't Stephen Greer, but
Because
he
there's going to be a money
arranged it.
trail. There's going to be a
That's right.
money trail of who he would have paid if he's just paid somebody to put some flares out. There'll be a money trail there for
And
that,
my
possibly.
understanding was they did their. I don't have the details, so I can't really verify any of that. But I remember reading that there was a receipt for a private pilot. I believe he flew a Cessna. That he was hired that day, and flew off the coast of Florida where those flares were seen. So there is something that is leaked, a flight path as well as a receipt that links it to being a hoax. And so that makes me, if it's true, then it makes me question everything, you know,
Yeah.
um, and and motivation, and what can we trust? Do we throw out the baby and the bathwater? I don't know, or was it just a one time off where he needed the money? You know, did he buy a bigger house and so now he's got a bigger mortgage and he's just scraping by and made a mistake? Maybe, I don't know. Or is
Well,
this habitual?
Giordano, Rich from Goof On, he's good friends with the Cousins brothers, and I know they do a lot of work with him, and they've seen his house. So I'm pretty sure well, from some of the video footage I see, it looks like a pretty big house.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's unnecessary. It's greed at its finest. And as soon as you become dependent on that money to continue chasing what the Joneses have, then, you're you're a liability to yourself and to the field that you're researching and working for. So that's how I feel. I feel that he has become a liability. He may have begun with the right heart, but now it's clouded by greed.
Maybe that's what happens with quite a few people in this world, that when they get the power,
Yeah,
it's just everything that they stood for. It it's still this. It doesn't mean to say he's not still interested. It doesn't mean to say that he's not in the loop, because I think he's very much is in the loop. But I think
yeah,
a lot of it is clouded by that. Um,
yeah. That's the
yeah,
problem.
some
Is
of the
can he
interviews
even
I've
trust
watched
his
with
own
him
motivations?
in, they're a little bit shady, to say the
Hmm.
least.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so
I know I
too.
said finally before I go, but I have to ask you this, because you will have heard this date popping up in the world
Mm,
of UFOs, the world of everything. That they keep giving a date, 2027.
yes, I, I, I believe I was the first in this community to come forward with a 2027 date, and um, and it was tied to some event that is going to be pretty challenging for humanity and like for us surface dwellers, and um, that it like it something really significant is going to happen in 2027, and that things just get progressively worse until this cataclysm of whatever sort it is going to be occurs. So um, I I talked with several members of the intelligence community about that date in 2021, and shared some of the events that I was seeing happening at that time. We were kind of like live streaming with, they were talking to the council through me, and it was wild. It was really wild. Um, but I don't know if this is one of those things where it's been repeated so many times that people forget where they heard it from first. You know what I mean? Um, but the last time that I was aware, or that I had become aware of a date or a time previous to mine that 2027 was mentioned as a warning time for us, was back in the 70s, and I've just recently come into contact with that information. So I thought that the first time it had been posited at all was with me, but apparently um, around the time that I was born, it was actually um, in some kind of classified setting. It was mentioned. Um, so that I find that really intriguing. But I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what's going to happen then. I hope that whatever it is, that it's actually positive for us. Um, if we get lemons, I hope we all make lemonade. I don't know. you know, I don't want, to be a downer about it or anything, but
I'm gonna
I
say,
think that we should,
if it is a big, like, giant asteroid coming, can you speak
yeah,
to your mates? Because I'm sure they have the technology to, if they can drill into a mountain, they can shift one of those rocks just off course a little bit. I find it amazing that we're still standing. If I'm honest with you, if
right,
what we've been told about space is real, because, like, it's kind of a miracle that we had another uh, planet killer.
right, right. Yeah, it is. It is a miracle, and we're due, you know. So we'll
Maybe it's the
see.
moon. Maybe the moon just keeps that. The moon one day. I mean, apparently it just turned up one day. So
Yeah, that's pretty disturbing.
yeah. Well, honestly, we could go. We could just keep going with these kind of with conspiracies. You're on a conspiracy
Yeah.
show, Anjali.
Yeah,
But
I know.
do you have a podcast yet? Do you have anything that you where people can find you, where they can find you? I know you're on X, but is there
Right.
is there anything else going on?
Well, there is something else going on, but I don't want to release the name of it. I've been working on the website. I just have someone who's going to make sure that it's secure,
Sure.
because I had
Okay.
another website, and it was hacked into, and so now I need some advanced help. So that is coming, as well as production of. I've filmed a couple of episodes, but I haven't released them for my upcoming podcast. Again, just trying to get all my ducks in a row so I can hit the ground running. Um, you can right now you can find me on X. I'm at Anjali on Gaia, and that is Gaia is in the earth, not as in the network. I didn't know there was a network when I chose that handle. But so Anjali on Gaia is where you can find me. Um, if you have something that you need to share with me that's sensitive, you can DM me there, and I can potentially send you the signal, and we can have a secure conversation there. Um, so for now, that's where you'll find me the best.
Well, Anjali, it's been an absolute pleasure,
Thank
and I
you.
hope you'll come
Mine
back
too.
on the show.
I
Um,
will, because I
y-
have some conspiracies. We didn't even get to them.
oh, when my co-host Lee is here, he'll be all over those with you. Because yeah,
Excellent. Awesome.
he's a bigger conspiracy theorist than I am. I think I think he is. Anyway, I don't know. We've never measured that.
Mm,
Maybe we should. Anyway, good night,
yeah.
God bless people. Mind the bugs, though. Oh, by the way, everybody, British Podcast Awards, you can still go vote. So go do the votey thing. Also, if you want to become a patron, we are live this Saturday, 10 p.m. UK time. I think that's 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern. I have no idea. You work it out. But yeah, consider becoming a patron and make sure you keep giving us those 5-star reviews because that's what keeps us plodding on, people. Good night. Thank you, Anjali. Bye bye.
Thank you.
There we go.